Well, hello to Melissa Meagher, Rescue's new money expert and the founder of Talking Money. Welcome to Rescue TV.
Thank you, Bar. Thank you for having me. It's very exciting to be part of your journey.
We're so happy to have you as our financial wellbeing coach as part of the new Rescue relaunch. I think financial literacy and financial confidence is just as important as knowing what lipstick suits you and, getting your relationships and wardrobe in order. In fact, when we did a little bit of research, both with our own readers and also the post-pandemic state, financial security, financial literacy, and financial control was actually the number one thing that the women that we heard from and surveyed and interviewed wanted to level up on. And we're delighted that you're going to be able to hold us through this journey, particularly over the next 12 months, because I think the next 12 months are going to be the big kind of pivot moment. And I want to dive straight in. And I love that the first place that you want to start from is understanding what your money story is and knowing what your money pot is.
Yes, because it's thanks, but it's just because it's kind of the yin and the yang for me with regards to how I support women with their money management, their personal finances, all that sort of thing. First of all, you have to get, that clarity and awareness and efficiency of really knowing your numbers and understanding your money pot. Because the thing is, if you want to do, obviously it's important to know what that looks like. But also if you want to go and do something different, so that might be to reduce debt, that might be to have money for cash reserves, as a buffer. It might be to build wealth. It might be to put away money for holidays when we're allowed to go on holidays again. Whatever it is, or for children's education, something needs to change in your money pot for you to be able to reallocate to those areas. So obviously you have to understand what your money pot looks like first of all, and be really clear on knowing your numbers to be able to do.
I want to just jump in here because I think it's that leap that is the hardest place to start.
Yeah.
Most of us have not learned to make friends with or prioritize knowing our numbers. We may have given that responsibility away to our partner, to our employer, to our super fund, to our parents. Even some adults are still being guided by their parents. And it's really, for lack of a better word, it's not necessarily a sexy subject. So it doesn't get the say. It's really only been the pandemic that has brought people to their knees financially, that has made, financial literacy a priority and something that we want to become familiar with and friends with.
Yeah.
And I would really like you to help us make those connections. When I go on your LinkedIn or I follow you on social media, I really like some of the quotes and the sayings that you have because it makes me connect the dots. And I'd love you to share on how, first and foremost, we can bring ourselves to the position where we realize that nothing happens before we understand what our money pot is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I completely agree with you. This was important beforehand, but what's happened with COVID and the pandemic and everything has just completely, it's really brought it to the fore, and because people might be under sort of more financial pressure or their financial situations may have changed, it's become even, more important. And I think, there's a lot of things that are out of our control at the moment and, moving and happening and changing very quickly. But this shining a light on your finances, pulling back the curtain and shining a light on your finances is absolutely completely within our control.
Let's start there. So what do we do?
Okay, so basically the first one is to, my favorite saying is knowing where your money goes gives you freedom and choice around where you want it to go. So it's not about what's right or wrong or good or bad or what you should or shouldn't be doing. It's just really, pulling back the curtains and really shining the light on your finances. So the first thing I do is to talk, is to talk to people about doing a personal financial audit, which is really just sort of really no, it doesn't sound sexy at all, but it is really the most empowering and liberating thing to actually understand what is going on, because a lot of the first thing I talk to people about is actually going and looking at what's going on in your bank accounts, because the number of women that I talk to that actually don't want to, that are fearful of what of going looking at their bank accounts, don't even know what the login details are, because they don't actually want to go and see what's going on because they're fearful of what they're going to find. And the thing is, two things is, what the fear of what you think you're going to find is always 10 million worse, 10 million times worse than actually what the reality is. And it's that fear that's keep holding us back and keeping us small from really stepping into our power and really, having that, that clarity and awareness, efficiency around our finances. So the first thing I do is to get women to actually go and start having a look at their bank accounts, looking at what the flow of funds are, looking at the structure, have a look at what's going in, what's going out, all that sort of stuff.
What the fees are, when the fees are due, when the money comes in, when the money goes out. One of the things, I took your advice and I went and had a look at my account, and I discovered 3 direct debits that were for things I no longer used. One was for an insurance product that I hadn't used in 6 years, and I got a $4,000 refund.
That's fantastic. Look, like just look in your bank account. That's amazing. But so how amazing was that for you?
It was so, but you know what? It was quite confronting, actually, that I hadn't picked up this debit for so many years, which pretty much says exactly what you just did, that I was too scared to look at even my bank. And I'm a businesswoman. So this is inside my personal account. So the business account I keep, an eagle eye on. But when it came to personal finances, I didn't.
So why do you think that was, Bah? Why do you think that is? Or what do you think that is?
Fear. Yeah. Fear of the unknown. Fear that it's more complex than it actually is. Fear that if I did find something that wasn't right, I'd be ashamed of myself for finding something that isn't right. It's like, if you've dated a guy that's bad for you, you're kind of embarrassed to tell your friends, because more than anyone else, you shouldn't be dating that guy. And it's slightly, and I think money and relationships have the same kind of emotional triggers and ties.
Absolutely. And they are so inextricably entwined, because, such a big part of our core identity is really tied to our relationship with money. And that can show up very much, directly with our relationship with money. It can show up in our personal relationships. It can show up in our professional life, or all of the above.
Yes. So I did the audit. What do we do next?
Fantastic. That's great. And I'm really interested. I love the fact that you said about the 2 things about feeling embarrassment and shame around what, not being all over your finances, because I think that's a huge reason why we are not, that we're fearful of going and looking at our bank accounts or anything, because, all the women I work with, and I'm sure, a lot of the women that, that you support through rescue and stuff, are, superstars at what they do. They're strong, empowered, amazing professionals. And there's this thing, which is, one of the main reasons I started my business, is that there's this expectation in society, because if you're good at what you do, you're automatically good with your finances. And I can tell you there is no correlation, even for people in finance, there is no correlation whatsoever. But because there's this expectation, and when people aren't all over their finances because they don't have the skills, the knowledge, the know-how, or whatever to do it, there is a lot of embarrassment and shame around it. And that's one of the fundamental reasons I actually started my business up. So it's a very, and then we bring the whole level of the women's, sort of side of things as well, of being told, all sorts of stuff when we were growing up about being girls. So there is a lot of layers.
There are. A lot of emotional layers around money. So we've done the audit. What next?
Okay, so we do.
So what do we hope to get out of the audit? Look
at our bank accounts. And then we sit down and go, okay, we'll list out all your assets. So list out, what you own. Like, actually, have you ever sat down and listed out what you actually own? All your assets that you own. And then list out what you owe. So, listing out all your debts, what you owe with your debts. Are they as efficient as possible? When I'm talking about debts being as efficient as possible, I'm talking, are you, minimizing the amount of interest that you're paying on your debts? Because, more so now than ever, if, things have got a little bit tighter or your financial situation's changed, it's really important to make sure that you're paying as little as interest on those debts. So it may be worth having a chat to your bank or your mortgage broker and reviewing, your debt situation to make sure it's as efficient as possible. Then it's really important to look, and this is an area that I work very closely and support people on, that we'll be sharing a lot more information with your readers, is, what do you have coming in? Do you actually understand what you have coming in? Like, which could be your, it could be your salary, it could be income from your business, it could be investment income, it could be government assistance at the moment, child support, or, a combination of all the above. Do you know how much you've got coming in, when you've got coming in, when it's coming in, what the amount is, so having that, just really understanding, being really, really clear on what you actually have coming in. And the only way you can do that is actually go and have a look at your bank accounts and see what the, and maybe, with a lot of women I work with, I just say, I just want you to go in every day and have a look at your bank account and see what's going on, see what's coming in. And the other side is, how much do you have going out, which is a really big area. So understanding, exactly what you did, understanding what your ongoing financial commitments are. What are your fixed costs? What do you spend on a regular basis on lifestyle spending? What are your ongoing fixed costs? When are they going out? And, and there's lots of different things that we can put in place to make that, really make that sort of streamlined and seamless and automated, as opposed to sort of, fluffing around in the dark, not really knowing what's
in the
going on.
article that you wrote for us, you've given a link to a budget template that we can use, which I'll share it at the end of this video.
A fantastic resource that we have available in Australia, and obviously other people, worldwide have it, but is the ASIC Smart Money website. It's amazing. It's a government website. So it's just purely educational. It's the most amazing resource that we can have, anything you wanted about money, finances, investments, retirement, super, anything. It is on there, and they've got this fantastic resource called the Budget Planner. And that's the link that you can share with the listeners. But I use that with every single client of mine, and it's a really great resource to really, being able to plug in all your, your fixed costs, track, being able to, capture your lifestyle spending, all that sort of stuff. And then, once you've done all that, one of my other favorite sayings is, the best map in the world is no good if you don't know where you are.
Absolutely.
So this is about really line in the sand, no judgment, not looking back at what's happened in the past. It's going, right, now we know exactly where we are, and we can now start moving forward. We've cleared the space. We're, line in the sand, let's move forward. And, the things that aren't serving us or aren't working, now we can actually go and have a look at that.
So I'm going to, I guess, throw out the challenge to whoever's watching this video today, is to take one small step, which is go and open up all your bank statements with a highlighter, and also check out the link to the article that you've written for us, but also the ASIC money planner, the budget planner.
Yes, yep.
And I think that if we could just take this one small step together this month, it's a really great step in the direction of where we're heading. And I think one of the things I'm really excited to work with you on and to bring to our readers is to unpack the complication around money and that feeling of dread and fear. And I think, like anything, like learning to ride a bike, like learning a language, like learning how to cook something, it's all about those foundations steps. So let's get the foundations right without fear, without embarrassment, without shame. And then each month we'll get you to kind of build on our skill set. And of course, we can do the more exotic things, talk about investments and stuff down the track. And we've had Anthony Bell contribute to Rescue for the past 10 years as well. And he talks about investment products and but let's get that financial literacy piece right. And is there anything else that you'd like us to do until we meet again?
Look, I just want to get women talking about money. Actually, that's what I mean, that's,
Yeah.
and like in a safe and nurturing space, which I know if what is what you've got, and I want, as I said, for my wish, for you is that, make not money not difficult and a taboo subject, to make it easy and easy to understand, and to really, to not necessarily make it sexy, but like, to love and embody this part of your life, because it can give us so much joy and pleasure, and like, freedom and choice in our lives, and like to
I'm
really
just going to
make
ask
it
one little question. As we're going on this journey, is this a solo pursuit, or do we tell our partners and our children that we've set the intention to really become masters of our own money? What do you recommend to your clients?
look, it can be either or. Like, it's some women, I work with them just on their own that might be
Yeah.
in a relationship because they're wanting to empower themselves to, because I find with couples there can be an imbalance sometimes, and so I want to bring them up, bring one down and the other up, so they're sort of working together. And the way I explain is being on the same. A lot of couples I see, they're on different trains, on different train tracks, heading in different directions. So I actually want them on the same track, in the same train, heading the same direction. So it's really lovely to be able to communicate, because I find a lot of couples, there's a bit of a disconnect around talking about money together. I've just done a number of presentations about actually talking to your kids about money. I presented for Business Chicks recently about, talking to your kids about money. So I think that's a really important thing to do as well, because that's how we're going to change. I'm working with the adults that have the not great relationships with money. And if we've got the opportunity now to change the next generation coming through, that they do have this understanding and these foundations, this knowledge around money, and we can break that cycle or pattern or loop that's going on.
Yeah. Well,
I
that
think
was perfect. I love that we've started here. I'm going to share those resources, and I'm looking forward to going and having a deeper dive in my audit. But I want to thank you, because I found $4,000, because
that's amazing.
I went sniffing around in my bank account.
That is, I'm going to use that. I won't say it's you, but I'm going to use that. That's a great
It's the
testament.
same thing as, when we were doing all that stuff with super this year, I found super money as well.
Yeah.
First you've got to look and take stock of what you have, and then the loose ends. So it's, you don't have to just be scared of it. It can actually lead you down the path of finding money you didn't even know you had.
Well, it's finding money, it's saving money, cancelling direct debits, or
looking at assets differently.
Yeah, particularly if it's coming off a credit card. You don't even know that these, people have signed up for these donations and stuff like that in shopping centres, walking through shopping centres, and they forget that it's actually, and like, obviously if they want to do it, that's fine, but they didn't even realise that's, that might necessarily be what they're wanting to do anymore. And so, just going through and doing this financial audit can actually free up so much cash flow. It's not funny. That then you can direct into other areas.
I'm grateful for my free up. So thank you. See you.
Oh, pleasure. That's great.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Yeah, you too, Barra. See you.